Thank you so much for joining us, for remaining with us. Hope you have your cup of cocoa, or cocoa,
or coffee, or tea, or the tea.
She has spoiled everything.
Anyway, I'm sorry,
we're plunging straight into that conversation around the Abuja area council elections. Yes, but just quick information: 6 area councils. The elections will be held at Amak, which is the Abuja Municipal Area Council, with 12 wards. Abaji has 10 wards. Buari has 10 wards. Gwagwalada has 10 wards. Kuje has 10 wards. Kwale has 10 wards, and all of these are already, some of them have become active.
Yes.
A number of them have already started to do stuff.
And in order to prepare for this election, you know, the FCT minister declared a public holiday yesterday for all workers. So.
Even though there's been backlash to that one as well. Anyway, let's have conversations quickly with 2 people who will be helping us understand what's going on and what will be new, if anything is going to be new in this election. NLB is someone you know very well on the station. She's former country director, Action Aid, and executive director, NLB Center for Development. She joins us in Abuja along with Ezenwa Nwago, who is executive director, Peering Advocacy and Advancement Center in Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Okay. So,
thank you for having us.
Thank you. Welcome. So let's start. I'd like to start with you. Ladies first, they say, so let's just go that way. First of all, the Electoral Act has been signed. The amendment, the repeal and an amendment has been signed, and it has some recommendations that may or may not be so much different. What do you think is likely to be different today, Madam Obi? Are we going to have the same of the same? Is anything going to be, do you think it's a little too early to operationalize the law that's just been signed, or it's just, we should expect a miracle?
I think there are no miracles. It has gone into record that this is the fastest bill ever signed in a very, very long time. It can be positive and it can be negative, because before the 2022 the 2022 Electoral Act was signed, it went to the president about 7 times. So what is the difference here? The difference is that the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is interested in the bill. That showed that, and he said himself that he was watching what was happening, which meant that that's what he wanted, and he got it done, you know, the way he wanted. What is the difference is what we, from the civil society, and we are happy to be a part. The Nigerian Civil Society Situation Room is set up, you know, a situation room in Abuja Continental, where we are monitoring all the area councils from there, the complaints, you know, the same. What we're monitoring is the normal early arrivals, or how prepared those who have arrived, and where we have shortfalls, because we have deployed observers, you know, in all the area councils. And so it's very interesting to see that the election has commenced. And I can tell you that in almost every, I've visited 4 polling units this morning, and we have received reports from most of the area councils, Kuje, Abaji, Kwale, and, you know, Gwagwalada, and so on, and Amak itself, where we are seated. I think the issue of voter apathy is too early to tell how many people have come, but we're happy that we're able to see some, you know, party agents at the polling units. A number of them I was at, you know, the polling unit 018 and also 111. That's a shock. That's a polling unit that is related to, that is supposed to be in at the post office. But what is happening there is that normally inside the compound of the post office, it protects about 2 to 4 polling units. But when we got there, you know, the gates were locked, and so they had to set up outside. You know, so that is being sorted. But in the polling unit 016 and also 017, you know, where we also saw that one batch arrived earlier, and the other batch just came in before I came into the studio. But what we are expecting is for people to turn out. I like the analysis, Ayo, which you did, that if you choose not to vote, you have already voted. If you choose not to be, you say you are not going to participate in politics, you have already put your concern because your gap, nobody can take your place in terms of citizens' responsibilities. So we hope that, it's too early indeed. They cannot use, it's not the same law, the law that was passed yesterday or 2 days ago that practically be on ground. But we'll see how it turns out. At the end of the day, I think it's the citizens that matters. The presiding officers, some of them were very sharp in saying we have to show them our tags and all. But at the end of the day, the interaction that I've found this morning, there hasn't been any major fracas. And the reports we are getting is that people are really setting up. Some of them finding as at 7 o'clock or 6:50, many materials have arrived where it should be. And, more are still arriving. Even as I was coming into the studio, some people are arriving, but I could see professionalism in terms of how they set up the table and where there are complaints on how you position the cubicle. Citizens are engaging. More citizens need to go out. Voter apathy is a very major thing, and that's why we are coping. Say, give us transparent systems that can let people
if you can
see
hear me,
exactly
that's one of the
where we are going.
disturbing.
We are not looking. We are looking at strengthening the system.
Well, just a moment, madam. I think that's actually one of the disturbing trends. That more citizens need to engage. Something very important that you said there about voter apathy. We'll come to that in a moment. But Joke has some updates.
Yeah. So we gave some updates earlier about the LEA. Primary school. Our correspondent is there monitoring the events, the ad hoc staff of INEC, setting up their cubicles and positioning. Yeah. So electoral officers and voting materials have indeed arrived at that LEA primary school, Sagwari in Bwari Area Council. The voting area has 8 polling units. INEC officials are setting up their voting cubicles before accreditation and voting will commence. There's a sizable presence of security personnel comprising the police, NSCDC officials, and the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency at the center.
You said that the other time. EFCC is there, ICPC is there, NSCDC is there, NDLEA is there. Okay. We wonder sometimes what. So I think perhaps the message right there for the citizen, the voters in Abuja right this moment is it's safe to come out to vote.
Yeah.
No one should be driving around today until about 6 p.m.
Yeah.
According to the pronouncement of Mr. Wike. So that's really, really important, for us to say right there.
Yeah.
But so more details will be coming to you. As you can see, the setup is ongoing right now. The ad hoc staff are doing what they need to do. Voters are already on standby, checking out where is my name here. I really don't know how this happens, but let me quickly ask Mr. Nwagu this question, and it's a follow-up on something that Madam Obi said the other time. Recent FCT council polls have seen turnout as low as 9%, between 9% and 11%. And I'm wondering what you think is responsible for that, or are we likely to have an improvement in the figures now, or you think the figures are going to go lower now, particularly with these economic pressures and what one can perceive as lack of impact? Do you think it's likely to keep people away, or you think people are seeing some important things happening in their environments and they can? Do you think we'll have more than 9 to 11% or less this time around?
Well, Larry, that's difficult to predict at this point, but it's also important to differentiate between apathy and turnout, because registration is participation. If you have 1.6 million voters who have registered, and like you said, about 95% PVC collection. That is enthusiasm in the process, but turning out is a different thing, and there could be a lot of reasons why people turning out is a different thing, and there could be a lot of reasons why people may not come out. Like you said, the economic pressures are there, the absence of government, especially at these levels. It's funny that you could have people who live in Amak who may never have even heard of the name of the chairman of the local government, or even know whether, apart from seeing folks who harass motorists on the road wearing vests that carry local governments. Local government, local council is completely absent in the life of the people who live. But it's not completely a problem of government. It is also a problem of citizens. We only remember area councils when we want to get our state of indigenship and other documents that
isn't that to say that maybe even the local government administrations
really
themselves are not
budgets,
involving themselves in the lives of the people?
We don't even want to know who is our councillor.
Can you hear me, Mr. Wagu?
Part of political education that needs to continue will be to excite more and more citizens to get interested. Things won't happen because you want it to
Mr.
happen.
Wagu, can you hear me for one moment?
You are pushing for them to
just a moment. Isn't that really what is expected of? Isn't that really because the local government administrations themselves, or area council in this case, have made themselves not as significant or as relevant in the lives of the people? Maybe the people don't even know the things that they do. For instance, who is supposed to be in charge of street naming? Who is supposed to be maintaining their streets, constructing their roads? The assumption is that all roads are supposed to be made by either the federal government or the state government. But the Constitution is clear about what the functions of the local governments are. One of them is constructing roads. One of them is maintaining markets and all those things. So if these things happen and we do not see the local government chairmen come out to show themselves, how will people know that they exist if they are not as active as they ought to be in the lives of the people? This could also be responsible for voter apathy, don't you think?
Voter turnout. Voter turnout. I continue. Yes, voter turnout, because like I keep saying, participation is ongoing in different ways. People participate in the electoral process in more ways than voting. Voting is an aspect of the process. But you are right, and absolutely right, that like I said, you will only see them with the tickets that they go around in the markets. Not just getting those things, sometimes even extorting citizens. That's how you know there's a local government in the marketplaces that you talk about. But I also have a perspective about when people, we have to knock doors. It's not just the fact that even if people don't want to open those doors, we have to knock and get them to open it. Because governments generally, in my view, are not responsible enough to the citizens. And so citizens can't get back and say, oh, they are not carrying us along, as we normally say in Nigeria. I think we should push more. I think we should do more, not just for elections, because the challenge is that the excitement also is during elections. Immediately this is over, we get back to our daily lives. We don't care whether those markets that you talked about are maintained. We don't think whether there are cottage hospitals that can at least provide first aid for citizens, and that is the responsibility of, we don't care whether the roads are paved, for even if they are not maintained at least reasonably for the comfort of citizens. We wrist our hands and say, oh, we don't know them. We should know them. We should demand who they are and ask for the things that we deserve.
Right. And Madam Obi, if I can come to you, this election is seen as all important for the FCT because it seems indigenous groups are using this election to push for the reclassification of area councils as full local government areas, and of course, and also the creation of more senatorial districts and chronic underrepresentation. Do you see this happening even after this election, or is there some way to go?
I do think that people will continue to fight for their rights when they feel marginalized. The concept of the FCT itself, when it started, excluded the people because there was a whole trial of trying to relocate them from where they are to create space for the Federal Capital Territory, to create space for the kind of design that was done for the FCT. And so resettling them and so much, they were not captured unlike you have in Lagos, you have in Saleko, and then you have different places where the citizens were directly involved in the administration of so many things that they are doing. The FCT case is a different one, and I think it's important to integrate them because they are within the land on which you have come to build. There was some compensations that were done initially, but when you look at the kind of compensations, billions were paid out or so-called paid out, to citizens to relocate themselves. But there was a lot of things, there's so many things that didn't quite go right. So the agitation will continue, and I think it's important to include the people. It's the inclusion that we're looking at. Any environment that you are, you need to include the people and let them be able to decide for themselves what they feel they need to decide. They need to be included in the decision that affects the lives of the people that are living on the land. When we are talking about voter apathy, when you bring in what happened during the electoral amendment bill, when it was a bill, through the journey through to the signing of the bill, what we wanted was to reassure citizens that their votes will count. And I think some of the apathy that we're talking about may be because people will feel my vote won't count anyway because they said transmission will not be there. It may affect a little. So if you were at 9% before, it may go lower. But, I go back again to IO's analysis to say that it's important for every citizen to be involved in the decision that affects their lives. It's important for all of us to come out, register and go out to vote, or, to be part of the electioneering process. We have, parties now going on mobilization of members. And what we have talked about, mobilizing money from even within your political parties, because if you say you are 1 million or you are 20 million, and every citizen pays those who are going to be members, who want to be members of the party, pay like 1,000 or 2,000. You are creating your self-sufficiency in terms of sustainability of the party already. I don't know what particularly they are charging at the moment, but they are doing electronic, registration, and you are afraid of electronic transmission. So many things there will cause that. But I do think that the struggle for representation continues, and we have the Federal Character Commission that tries to look at diversity. Diversity principles should be used at all times in representation.
Right. Madam Obi, if I can still stay with you, do you think that some would say that the president was hasty in signing the electoral bill. Is that your view as well?
The processes that normally you go through is when the conference committee, when they have agreed and it has been passed, it will go to the president. The president's office is not going directly to the president. The president's office receives it and takes it through its own legal machinery as well. But how quickly it's signed showed that the president was with the whole idea, or maybe it was from his office that the whole thing emerged. So it means that he and his team are quite aware, and they were being copied or everything, or maybe the interest of the president is represented and they were monitoring every minute of it. And when it came to him, it was not it's not strange anymore. It's not the best to delay, bills when it has come to you, when for assent. So that's why I say it can be negative or positive, because what really happened that you signed it so quickly? Is it because of the FCT election? It can't catch up with it because they are already in the field. but what exactly are we? There is a lot that needs to hear. And I think very interesting too, what will let people want to willingly go and vote is that we don't vote in Nigeria, we don't vote for individuals. We vote for political parties. And you see people using the people. The emblem of the party is the one that, the logo of the party is the one that you vote for. And after voting, many people are jumping ship. They are jumping from one party to the other and doing that and thinking that that is whole and whole. Under normal circumstances, when you jump like that, you declare vacant, the position vacant. Let other people compete for it. But so many things leading to what we want to do, inspires people to come and vote. But we need a re-engineering of citizenship responsibilities. We all need to pick our responsibilities, take it very seriously, because that's the highest office of the land, the office of citizenship. You can decide, and you can hold people accountable. But let people go out there, whether it's electronic transmission or whatever is happening, go and vote, wait for your votes to be counted, and look at what will happen, and then, let's have some transparency and accountability, but people holding government to account by being a part of the process. If you are not a part, you can't complain.
Zawago, I don't know if you agree with Madam Obi that maybe not much will change, but let's look at some basic facts. In the follow-up to in the aftermath of the 2023 elections, and people were complaining about whether IRF performed well or not, whether they were able to view content on the IRF portal well enough or not. Some of these issues went to court. And the courts, said finally that, look, there is no such thing as electronic transmission in the law, in the Electoral Act at the time. Now it is law. Electronic transmission is in the law, in our law. So because we have practiced it, in the past, and the only thing is that it was not written as a condition, a precondition for voter collation or collation of results and all of that. Do you see that, instilling any confidence in the people now? It's something we've been doing before. We did it in 2023. The electronic transmission of results. It's just that it was not enshrined in the law. This time around that it's been written in the law, what do you think is likely to be different?
Well, it's important that it's in the law, but it's more important that political parties take their responsibilities more seriously. The process is still largely manual. It is largely manual because you accredit and then you vote manually, and your votes are sorted manually, counted manually, announced manually, and then uploaded. So the oversight of this process is the responsibility of the party agents. If they shirk that responsibility, if they compromise that responsibility, if they sell out their political parties, they upload, which is the end game of the result management process, may not give us the kind of integrity sentinel that we're looking for. But it is key that we've been able to put it in the law, but it must not take away the fact that if parties don't have agents, and there is nothing like citizen agents, INEC accredits party agents, accredits observers, so those accredited party agents have a responsibility to their parties. And I've been asking that the parties themselves must be able to set up their own result viewing portal, mined from their party agents, with which they can then compare with what is in the INEC result viewing portal. If we don't do that, most of what happens at the polling unit, elections are polling unit centric. It is at the polling unit that most of the compromises take place. even though collation is a challenge. So the viewing portal, as it is in itself, reposits these results. But the actions and behavior or misbehavior of the political parties will give the integrity to that viewing portal. And the only way that can happen is when they themselves take their responsibilities more serious. That may be of help. But I'm excited that we have it in the law. It will help not just the political parties, it will help independent, people who want to assess the results. It will help scholars. It will also help journalists who want to do independent assessment of what outcomes of results are. But for the E-Day especially, it is the play of the political parties.
Right. Mr. Wagugu, major political parties like the APC and the PDP have framed this local contests, especially the FCT council elections, as a strategic exercise to gauge their own national appeal ahead of the elections next year. That's the general elections in 2027. Do you see this as a litmus test for the ruling party?
I don't want to get into outcomes. I'm really very worried about getting into outcomes. We will be more interested in looking at the process, how the different stakeholders in the electoral process carry out their responsibility. And by that I mean, first and foremost, the EMB, the Electoral Management Body, how much is able to discharge its responsibilities of conducting free, fair, credible, acceptable elections. We want to see security, how professional they are, how impartial and neutral they are. And you were talking earlier when you started about NDLEA and that is a response of the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security, ICSES, which has a pool of all the major security agencies working in a coordinated form to be able to, for security provisioning. We want to be able to see how the electorates themselves respond to, the campaigns that have done. Where are they issue-based? What is in contest? And how much are we going to see in terms of voter inducement or the absence of it? Those are the things that are. So for litmus tests, I would want to be looking at litmus tests for security agents, litmus tests for INEC, litmus tests for conduct, civil conduct of the political parties and the electorates. But outcomes will be the interest of partisans, in my view.
Well, Madam Obi, Mr. Nwago has spoken to this a bit, but it goes back to what the president said, that look, the elections, the entire process is largely manual. What safeguards do we need to bring in to instill more confidence? Whatever it is that's going to be uploaded on the viewing portal on IREV is going to be written by people. What are the safeguards you think need to come in to boost confidence in the process?
I think I want to go back to say that the legislatures have been really dealing with citizens in terms of creating confidence in the system. Because during Jega's time, they also tried to deal with the issue of e-voting. Because if you can go there and press what you are pressing now, you could easily also do e-voting. And they came out with it, during Jega's time, but it was turned down. Now we say do mandatory transmission, of votes, of the votes right from the polling unit, upload. They say when they are telling us, they're just talking to us as if we're children. They're telling us if you vote in places that don't have network, there are some places that don't have network. We all travel around the country. And I think before the 2023 general election, they challenged Professor Mahmood and told him, they invited him and the communications minister into the National Assembly. And he told them that they have no problem with uploading the results. And we could see it through the National Assembly results that were uploaded. You see, when the court is also saying there is no, this transmission is not written in law. when they want to cause fraud, they look at it from another side. They look for loopholes. And that's why we're saying, don't give us loopholes anymore. Let the transmission be mandatory and let it create more confidence. We are not satisfied with what the president has passed, though in what we have seen so far, the copy of what the president signed, what we have seen, the issue of communication is not there, or the issue of the network is not there. Maybe we're waiting for what is being gazetted so we see properly what they have written. We think they should create more confidence in the people, because you are not on that seat forever. And so it's important for us to continue to focus on what's on ground. In 1993 election, which MKO won, the parties were very, very active. We need to take the issue of the party agents very, very seriously. When we're doing during the 2023 general election, there were so many, polling units that you go. Many parties were not taking it seriously. But we are saying you need to create that. Eze mentioned that some parties have created situation room. That's what you should do. You need to collect from, because the form that is signed is also signed by your agents, and they transmit it to you. They snap it and send to you. So already you will be collecting and you'll be knowing what. We are interested in what happens with the system.
Okay.
You need to create more confidence.
Well, madam,
Okay.
The electronic transmission thing made us, Jockey and I last week, ask two of our guests who, I think we were talking about ethical hacking and all of that. Yeah. And we asked the two of them, how foolproof? Well, that was something like that. How foolproof is it? Is it safe? How foolproof, how insulated is an election process against hacking? And both of them, one was in London, one was here in the studio with us, said that there is no such thing as foolproof against hacking. You'd also recall, madam, last week, and this is not making a case, it's just asking the questions. Last elections, the last 2023 elections, INEC came out and said they had millions of attempts at people wanting to hack their system,
compromise it,
surreptitiously to influence the process or the outcomes or whatever it is. Perhaps those are the conditions that the National Assembly members considered in coming up with this position. What's your take on that?
I think people will seek for reasons. There is of course, no foolproof. People can hack, and what we're talking about is that when an election is conducted in a polling unit, already all the parties will have the results. And so there are so many ways of checking whether this is the real result and what have you. When you allow movement from one place to the other before transmission, then you start seeing some of the things that happened in 2023 by, manipulation. You can see where they cancel results because the form is not available. You don't have more forms. The forms are restricted. You find out that they are canceling, and then you see shabby, cancellation, and it's very, very clear when you see that something has been changed. And that's why we're saying when you upload right from the unit there are ways of checking it. INEC, of course, has ways of, they have backups to be able to check certain things. But we can't say that is the main reason, because if you are able to upload the national election, results, why couldn't you upload the presidential result at the same time? So nobody should tell us that this is the reason why this didn't happen, or the glitches only happened to the transmission because it's the same election, the same day. And that's why many of us are clamoring for a single day, election, so that one election does not influence the other, to strengthen the system, to make people stronger. And so, nobody can guarantee whatever proof, but what they are saying, they are seeking, I think those are very vague reasons or lazy reasons to tell us that transmission could happen. When they tell us about network, when you have a WhatsApp, when you upload or you respond to messages, when there is no network, nothing will upload. But when you get a network, you won't even know when your phone would have sent all the messages. And we know that the Beavers machine has the capacity to transmit, immediately, and also, to upload to the IREP portal. And I think another attempt would be if it was electronic voting, for example, you'll be seeing the results as it's coming. And that's one that when we do a comparison with a country like India that has 980 million registered voters with about 640 million voting, and the announcement is done one day, can we learn from them to strengthen our system? But let's not use the system to cheat ourselves or to use language to coordinate the efforts. But I think at the end of the day, the quality of the citizen that is manning every stage is very important. You can't blame the INEC commissioner, blame the REC and say you are the one who is doing this. The presiding officer, all the officers, the Nigerian, the security agencies, they are all over the place this morning, and I met, a constituents of many security agencies. I think we all need to do our duty. I've met a police officer before. When somebody was trying to monitor a voter, he told the person to get out, move away from there. And those are some of the salient things of us being responsible. So at all levels, whether you are the police, you are the citizen, you are the presiding officer, you are wherever you are the REC, or whoever you are, be ready to be a citizen.
Right.
Stand up right for Nigeria.
Right. Thank you, madam, for that. We have updates coming from Abuja from our correspondent, Larry Lasisi. But before we get that, we have a comment from someone who monitored the election in Buhari Area Council.
Rather,
someone
comment on X.
From X, Festus Akinboyewa. He says those insisting on real-time electronic transmission of election results, particularly some civil society organizations, seem more driven by their own interest than by practical realities. Even a quick online search shows that countries like the UK still experience significant internet connectivity challenges, especially in the rural areas. Yet we behave as though our own infrastructure is flawless. It makes little sense to demand a system that depends on perfect connectivity when we know our network is far from consistent.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right, well, remember we also mentioned to you that there is Kano on one side, there is Rivers on one side as well. Anyway, back to the couple we're speaking with on this particular subject matter. Well, there is that issue of electronic transmission that we discussed. Festus Akinboyewa made an input. But there is an update of sorts. This is Tola Skittish Money also on X saying, hacking is not justified as a reason to not transmit election results. A hacked result can be verifiable with the manual method. It is just flipping the evidence mode. Rather than getting the electronic version to prove the manual, use the manual to validate the electronic. Mr. Awag, do you agree?
I'm not a civic tech expert, so I really get restrained in dabbling into the conversation about hacking or no hacking. But what I do know for sure is that there is nowhere you can surrender completely your processes to technology. If you do that, you are calling for fiasco. And that is why, like I said, a lot of attention is being paid to result management process. And result management process is 80% interest of partisans, the politicians. The results are important to them. The other processes are not such important. And that's why you see that out of close to 130 clauses of amendment, we are fixated on 63E. Results, as important as that is, we need to pay attention to how the behavior or the misbehavior of the politicians. And I keep saying that 60-70% of the shenanigans that happens in our electoral process are done by these politicians. And because we give them a lot of comfort, we don't pay attention to their business. Just look at ordinary congresses that are going on right now in some political parties. The governors in most states have already ambushed that process. And if your primary process is bad, the desperation from that primary process will spill into your secondary process. So the primary process, Nigerians need to begin to pay attention to our leadership recruitment process, which is conducted by the politicians. The politicians are the first election management body. The elections they conduct do not survive any kind of integrity test. They buy votes, they pay delegates, they do all sorts of things, but we don't pay enough attention. The people in the Senate and the House of Representatives have installed the electronic voting machine since 2011 or thereabout. They've not been able to use it. So you see people standing and shouting yeah in 2025. There is something that is not sitting well about all of this. The politicians in our country are the ones that are completely absent from reform. So when we pay too much attention on uploads, transfer, transmission, they are excited about it in my view, and this is my honest view. It will help litigants. It will help people who want to go to court. If we get the process right, if INEC logistics, they open polls on time, accreditation happens when it should happen, voting happens when it should happen, proper sorting is done, the active party agent is following up all of this process. When results are manipulated from the polling unit, how does he get into the upload if there is an active, effective party agent on ground who is truly a member of that political party?
Yes.
Let me tell you what happens in the polling unit, and if you move around, you will find out that most of the people who act as party agents are not even members of those political parties. They are procured. And when their so-called supervisors come, what they ask them is, Kunchi Abinchi, have you eaten? Have you divided? Has the money been given to you? There is no organic relationship between the party agent and the supervisor. Who has responsibility?
I think you're already asking us, Mr. Wagu, you're already asking the political parties to rewrite their books on this matter, which makes the world of sense, because they blow back, so to speak, in the aftermath of the 2023 elections is something to go by. And there are those who believe that there is a particular political party that said they won the elections, but they didn't have their party agents in more than half
of the polling units.
But here we are. Well, Madam Obi, very quickly, your last words on this conversation.
I want to say a big thank you. I say well done to the media for what they have been able to do so far on this journey. Much as we are not satisfied with what has happened in terms of the level of the ambiguity, which is still adding to whatever they are doing. We are here. We are monitoring. We are observing the election today, and we'll continue to see how we can give hope to the hopeless. Nigeria is one of the most beautiful countries, and I believe in Nigeria.
Absolutely.
Let's believe in our country and take hold.
All right. Thank you very much for your time this morning. With the lanyard on you, I know that you're going straight to the field from the studio. NLB is former country director, Action Aid, and executive director, NLB Center for Development, as well as Mr. Ezenwa Wagu, executive director, Peering Advocacy and Advancement Center in Africa. Thank you so much, both of you, for being here with us this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.